Good morning and welcome to our cooking class for Pan de los Muertos. First, I want to start by thanking Central Oregon Community College and the Central Oregon Community College Latinx program for sponsoring this event today. And today we're going to be offering a Pan de Muerto cooking class. A very traditional bread that's made during the Day of the Dead in Mexico. It's basically an egg yeast risen bread with orange and anise. And the first step into making this bread, we begin with melting the butter and getting it to temperature with the water and the milk. We could get this up to a 90-degree temperature because you don't want to get any further, it'll kill the yeast. And the cooler it is, the nicer the yeast will rise. So we want to get it, don't want to get too cold and we don't want to get too hot. So here we go. Okay. All right, that's the first step. Okay, our next step is now we're going to start making the dough or the masa, as we say, for the bread. Here's the liquid of the water and the milk and the butter. What I did was I got it a little too hot, so what I'm doing is cooling it down just a bit before. Again, if you get it too hot, you will kill the yeast. If you want it around a 90-degree temperature, you can stick your finger in it and it burns a little bit, then it's going to be too hot. So what I did is I just put it in a cooler glass bowl so they warm it up and it won't get too hot. So just pour that right into your bowl. And then at this point, we're going to add almost everything but the eggs in there. We're going to add your sugar. We're going to add your orange zest, some one full orange. We're going to add your salts, a pinch of salt. That's the taste. And the yeast blend, okay? So we add all of these ingredients, mix them well. Draw nicely first. And at this point, you'll see that the yeast, there's no grain in here, just get the yeast nicely dissolved into the dough here. We're going to add about half of the flour. We have about 2.5 cups of flour was in the recipe. By the way, the recipe is in the packages, but if you need the recipe, we'll get you the link to that as well, okay? So we're going to add about half of the flour in here right now. I'm going to get this nice and wet and move it around. Okay. All of these ingredients, what they're going to do is activate the yeast. The starches from the flour, the sugar, all of those things will get the yeast activated. And then we have the aromatics in there, which are the orange and the anise, okay? And then if you look carefully, the dough is going to be really pasty at this point. It's not going to be a dough quite yet. Then at this point, you want to add your eggs. There's also some substitutes we can use in place of this that you can use if you choose not or lactose intolerant. You can use the regular whole milk, or you can use coconut milk or the 2% milk. Another thing here in the recipe, one of the key ingredients is the anise. So the ground anise, what you want to do always with these dry ingredients is first toast them lightly in the pan just to get the aromatics out of them. If you don't have a spice grinder at home, you can use a traditional molcajete like we have here. That's what about this. Again, we'll just incorporate all that anise in there too. That could also be done in a Ziploc bag with a rolling pin. You can smash it that way too if you don't have either one of these tools at your house. Okay? So, and we're doing this in a bowl, not in a mixer. I'm using the traditional hand method because it's a lot easier to do it this way for people who don't have a lot of fancy equipment at the house. And I love doing this by hands. So the next step is incorporate the rest of the flour. So the flour is going to be varied right here. You may, depending on humidity and condensation, it will vary. So you're going to look at how much flour your dough will need, and I'll give you an idea. You want to get a nice wet dough before you stick your hands in there and start working on it. And this one looks really powdery. You'll see that right now. But see, as I mix it with a paddle, you'll see that there's more moisture coming out of it. We're going to knead this dough for about 5 minutes as soon as we get this part done. See how sticky and wet the dough is? That's what we want right now at this point. And then now we're going to knead by hand. If you don't have gloves like I am wearing today, you can also just dust your hands with flour, lightly dust with flour. That'll keep it from sticking. It's going to get a little sticky, but what we're going to do here is do a slight knead in the bowl and get us ready for proofing. Okay. And basically, all we're doing is trying to bring this dough all back together. Okay. And if you'll see the method I'm using, I'm just pushing down and folding the knuckles like this and getting it all to incorporate all the ingredients together. Okay. So that's the basic process of this kneading. This is going to go on for 5 minutes. So you want to get this elastic and ribbony. So we're going to pause it here, and then when it's ready, I'll show you what it looks like. Okay. Thank you. Okay, let's go. All right, then. After 5 minutes of some good hard work here, this dough will get a little elasticy, and it'll start getting smooth. You'll look at the texture very carefully. It's a lot smoother, and it's rubber, and it bounces back to the touch. You know that the dough is ready at this point. At this point, we're going to proof it for 1 hour. What this consists of is you're going to just form it into a ball like this, put it back in your bowl, and cover it with plastic or cloth and put it in a warm place for 1 hour. Hola, buenos dias. Here we go again. This step of the bread making is going to be preparing the bread, making the shaping and forming the bread. At this point, it is also suggested you can cut this bread into 4 pieces or 3 pieces and do a family event and have your family share this part with you. What I did here was I cut a piece of the bread off about, I'd say about 1/3 of it, 1/4. It's just a small piece. This is going to form the bones and the shapes on the top of the bread. This is going to be your loaf itself. This loaf can be cut in 4 and make smaller loaves if you want to do that, and you can have everybody decorate their own. What we're going to do is we're going to put shapes of bones on the top of the bread. That's our next step. Okay. So what we're doing here basically is all we're going to do is shape the dough into form. After it's risen double from the size of the one that you proofed earlier, it has to rise at least double in size, and after that you're going to push it down, and you don't need it too much. You just want to get it into the shape, a round shape, and get it ready. Okay. And because you're going to need this again, you're going to proof this one more time after this. So you put the bread right just in your pan, and then with this dough, the little piece, you're going to save a little bit for the round you'll see what I'm doing right now. And then we're going to cut this into 4 little pieces. Yeah. So we're going to cut this into 4 pieces. Basically what we're doing here is we're going to shape the bones that go on top of the bread. So here we go, 4 small pieces. Like this. And then on a floured surface, you just want to go like this. Simple. And then you're going to roll it between your hands like this and your fingers. And then it's a little easier to see. Kind of hard with the gloves on. But you're going to use your fingers, see how the fingers to shape the bones. That's what they technically call the bones. Did you see how you get the little different ball shapes in there? That's what we're looking for to make the bones, okay? So then we make 1 for those. Again, just these are basically symbolizing bones. That's what they're going to be doing when you're finished with them. And then spread your fingers wide and just run them between your fingers like this, okay? And that'll give you these little lumps, and that's what you want. It's supposed to be like 4 little lumps is what you get, okay? Again, we'll do it one more time. There are different shapes and forms that you can use to make these happen. This is a traditional one that we see on your recipe books. It's a little easier to work, but you can put little faces or skulls on them or any shape. You can get creative with this point. The tradition is that this bread is going to have a little bones on it because this is the bread that you're going to offer to the altar of the family or loved ones that you're going to celebrate the Day of the Dead with. And for those of you who don't know what Day of the Dead is, it's a very old tradition of celebrating the life of those who've gone on. And every year, the souls come back to the earth. And in most of the Latin American countries who celebrate this, they'll do it in the cemetery. At the cemetery, they bring food and they bring bread, and for children, they bring sugar and candies. But it's just a way of celebrating the life of those who've gone on and remembering them. It's not a mourning process, and it's not about being spooky or scared. It's about loving and remembering those who've gone on. So this is one of those offerings that they take to the altar. They do things like bring marigolds, and they bring food and their favorite drink and things that they like, music and song, and all that's at the cemetery when they celebrate. In this country, we do a community altar because we're not allowed to be in the cemeteries after dark. So the tradition for Latinx communities here is to do this as a community altar. We share it, and we will be doing one here in Bend, Central Oregon ourselves. So the next step here is get this shaped with bread. What we do here is with water, you're just going to put a little bit of water on your bread like this, and then you put the bones on it. You just apply the bones and make them stick. Okay? And then we stick these right on it, just like that. Little water will do the trick. And there. These are nice, beautiful little rustic rolls. They're nothing fancy or high tech, so good home jobs. This again, like I said, cut this into four and get your kids or get your family to do this. Make it a family. And there you go. That's what the pan de muerto looks like, proved out. Again, this bread here is going to sit for another hour and let it rise. It should get about another third in volume and size. At that point, then you want to put it in the 350 oven, and I believe it's for like 30 minutes or 40 minutes. It'll say on your recipe package. Okay, and thank you.